Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar whereby we'll be seeing what's new in Altaro VM Backup version 7.6. So I'm Jean, I'm the technical support lead here at Altaro, and today we'll be taking you through the following. So we'll be giving you a little bit of a quick introduction just about Altaro. Then we'll be going through what's new in version 7.6, how the licensing and upgrading will work, and a little bit of a Q&A session after that. So as you know, even with this new version 7.6 update, we still keep our four main core values, at heart. So first of which, even with these new and a little bit more advanced features, we still keep the ease of use in mind. So again, taking your first backup will only take you around 15 minutes maximum. Our sending support is something that we've stood by from day one, and we keep on investing a lot in our support department. Last but not least, in the sense of marketing wise, then we invest a lot in our education resources, as some of you may already know. So we offer a lot of free webinars and Hyper-V and VMware tutorials, which are all available for free online. And beside that, then we have a really strong partner network that obviously works with us hand in hand. So we've actually reached some very significant milestones that I'd like to share with you. We've reached up to more than 40,000 Altaro customers, 7,000 and counting partners, and around 500 plus MSPs that are using our new subscription program via the CMC. Also, we've won a couple of awards in the last couple of months, as you can see below. And recently, we've just won the Storage Awards Company of the Year award as well. Obviously, we've continued expanding. Now we have teams in 5 different countries. That makes the US, UK, Germany, Malta, and very recently also Macedonia. Obviously, we're also keeping support hours in mind. We're continuing on increasing, and currently, in fact, we are supporting from 3 a.m. till 8 p.m. EST, and we are also planning on expanding that in the very, very near future. So, introduction is over. Let's get to what's new in Altaro VM Backup version 7.6. So we have mainly three main points that we're going to cover. So first of which is the continuous data protection for local backups as of yet, which support both Hyper-V and VMware. Then we have introduced grandfather, father, son archiving. Again, this is for local backups. And last but not least, change block tracking version 2 for Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2. If you want to go ahead and download this update, you can follow the link on the screen. So, continuous data protection. You can now obviously with CDP go from normal scheduled daily backups to continuous backups. Again, this is both available for Hyper-V and VMware environments. So what is continuous data protection? Obviously, this will allow you to go from your normal, for example, daily backup to a backup, increase to a frequency of every 5 minutes. That's the max frequency. By default, when you enable CDP, you'll be it will be set up 60 minutes per virtual machine. Obviously, this is configurable from 5 minutes up till 12 hours. So for each virtual machine, once the current ongoing CDP backup has finished, the next backup will start when the previous backup completes, obviously. So if the current one has finished, after those 5 minutes, then it will continue with the next one immediately. If that specific backup takes a little bit longer, for example, because there might be a lot of data that essentially took place in those specific 5 minutes, then the next one will start immediately as the current one has finished. So why is this important in general, it's essentially a move to reduce the RPO. So the recovery point objective, instead of you losing around a day's work if you were previously using daily backup schedules, now you'll obviously, depending on the setting that you'll choose, you're looking at losing only 5 minutes of data and not an entire day's worth of work. So again, this is a move towards reducing your RPOs. So CDP does come with a little bit of a warning. Obviously, during each of the backup sets, a snapshot is being taken in the background. So it is very important that you enable CDP backups only for the virtual machines that require it. And with that said, as well, make sure to enable it on the specific virtual machines and set the frequency with the snapshots being taken in the background in mind, because it will obviously apply a little bit of pressure on the hypervisor during that snapshot process that's being taken, obviously due to the backup. Again, only enable this, especially with high frequency on those virtual machines that absolutely require it. So with that in mind, we did in fact include some specific limitations in place in order to try and regulate this a little bit. So for example, the maximum backup frequency is set to 1 backup every 5 minutes, instead of allowing the user to go even, basically choosing a higher frequency than that, such as, for example, 1 minute. Besides that, the maximum number of backups that can be taken per hypervisor is obviously limited to 4, so at least we'll limit that to some extent. It can be modified via an override file if necessary, but if the current sort of backup set is going along just fine without without any modifications, then we can leave it as is. So all CDP backups will indeed be kept for the last 4 hours. So when you enable CDP for 4 hours or less, basically you will be keeping those specific increments for the last 4 hours. So imagine that you've set your CDP for your Exchange virtual machine to 5 minutes. Then you'll have a backup for every 5 minutes for the last 4 hours. Beyond that, then those CDP backups basically will get deleted as per the retention policy after that. So with regards to the configuration of CDP itself, so it is disabled by default, again, because this is something that you should think about a little bit, in the sense of you should obviously enable this only on the virtual machines that absolutely require it. Just so as not to apply any unnecessary load on your hypervisor. Once you enable it, you will be given mainly 2 options. So you'll have the maximum frequency and the application consistent frequency as well. I'll go through this a little bit later on, once I'm actually demoing the features with the product. By the way, the CDP feature is only available in the Unlimited Plus edition and subscription licenses only. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actual product configuration screen. So there we go. So as you can see from the left-hand side menu, we have an option called CDP settings, specifically for such an option. So again, for example, I have my my Exchange virtual machine, which I've already enabled CDP for. So again, we have the maximum frequency and the application consistent frequency. So for my exchange, I am going to choose every 5 minutes. Let's go with that. And in fact, the warning also comes up within the user interface of the product. So it is telling you, listen, this is going to apply a considerable load on the hypervisor. So obviously, take a little caution in enabling this. So besides setting the maximum frequency, then we have the option to set the application consistent frequency. Why is this option important? Why are application consistent backups important? Obviously, especially for Exchange and SQL, so basically highly transactional database apps will need application consistent backups, whereby the virtual machine obviously will need to make use of the VSS writers inside in order to, for example, again, especially for applications such as Exchange and SQL, to truncate the logs. In my case, I have the application consistent disabled within the VSS settings screen. So ensure that this is enabled if you are going to, again, to back up any Exchange or SQL virtual machines. So now if we go back to the CDP settings screen, I can choose whether to take an application consistent backup once an hour, 4 hours, or even once a day. So let's go ahead with that option and save the changes. Upon saving the changes, because CDP will obviously be running, backups every so often, depending on the increment that you set. This will affect the backup health monitor that will need to scan the current backup set. So in this case, we'll give you an option to either set the backup health monitor to run on Sundays between 8 a.m. and 12, so as basically, to choose a time when there are possibly the least amount of changes happening. Disable backup health monitor completely and perhaps run it manually when you need to, or do not change the backup health monitor settings that you currently have. I would recommend going with the first option because I would highly advise obviously running the backup health monitor in the first place, and this way it will not affect your CDP backups. So that way we'll go ahead, confirm, and save the changes. So next we have the grandfather father son archiving system. So the retention policy has remained the exact same that it was previously. So we kept it the same in 7.6. So what's changed after that is the ability to go ahead and actually archive the previous backups that would have been deleted after the retention policy has passed for those. But in this case, we are actually archiving those specific backup sets. So as you can see also on the bottom, we can go ahead, set a specific amount of days that you'd like to keep the backups for. So that would be your normal retention policy. So in my case, I set it to 14 days. And then instead of choosing delete old backups under the archival plan for backups that are older than the set retention policy, I chose archive those old backups. So we are essentially keeping those older backup sets, and we're keeping them at a GFS archival level. With that said, why is GFS important? Obviously, if you want to keep around 2 years worth of backups, for example, you're going to have to invest in some backup storage, which will cost quite a bit of money. So with that said, introducing GFS will give you an archiving option without having to purchase an excessive amount of backup storage. And the good thing about this is that we are also deduplicating between all the GFS backups, so that good augmented inline deduplication that we have is also being applied on the GFS backups as well, which obviously will get you maximum savings on your backup storage. So at the moment, again, apart from the retention policy that we have in place at the moment, we will keep one backup per week for 12 weeks, one backup per month for 12 months, and one backup per year for 2 years. So these, the current setup that we have only goes up to 2 years. Eventually, we are going to extend further into these. So I know that some markets out there require certain archival requirements, and we are going to indeed address those. Currently, we started out with this, so obviously we can go ahead and test in the meantime, in the sense of see how customers are reacting to it. So then we can go ahead and see what the customers request, and we'll be able to take it from there. Just a quick note on this: the time periods shown are always calculated from the time of the last successful backup. So just to show you, if we had to enable CDP and GFS at the same time. So on the left hand side, we have CDP backups being kept again for the last 4 hours. Then the retention policy goes along up till the cutoff date. And if we have GFS archival enabled, we will keep those one per week, one per month, and the one per year, obviously for the amount up on the screen. GFS also is only available from the unlimited edition onwards, and that also applies to the subscription licenses. So, as most of you know, change block tracking isn't something new to Altaro. It's been within the software for a bit of a while now. But on server 2012 and 2012 R2, we did have some limitations. So we decided to address those by introducing CBT v2, and thanks to this, we have basically overcome a lot of the previous requirements that we had, such as updating Altaro itself, restarting one of the services. With that said, restarting the Hyper-V host, and also if there was a migration. So again, all of these have been addressed. There's no longer the need for a full scan, and thereby, your customers will require much less, scanning time, and thereby the backup window will remain small, as with regards to a normal CBT functionality, just as the ones that were introduced in Server 2016. So this way, with any server reboots, with any Altaro new update, you will not have to rescan to find out what changed. So something else that we've actually improved quite a bit on in Altaro VM Backup 7.6 is the ability to take concurrent retention, restore operations, backup, and offsite copy operations on the same virtual machine as well. So previously, you could, for example, only do one of these operations per virtual machine at the same time. And this caused quite a bit of pain points, especially being from support. We've had quite a bit of customers, coming up to us and mentioning these, and we've worked with the development team to basically address these issues. So, for example, if retention policy, took quite a bit of time to finish, that blocked the backup and restore operations until that retention had completed, which was, I know for some of you guys out there, was a bit of a pain point. For example, if an offsite copy to Azure took days, especially for the initial backup job, then the backup and restore operations for that specific VM, again, were queued until that was complete. This is no longer the case. Then, with regards to restore and restore operations, whereby it's important whenever disaster strikes, for example, any type of restore, file level restore, boot from backup, that was previously blocked until that operation was complete. So now we can operate with all of these concurrent operations, thereby not delaying any backup jobs and well, whether that was scheduled or even the CDP backup job. So this was a real welcome change and update within Altaro VM Backup 7.6, and we've seen this work very well with the new features that we've introduced as well. So those were the new features that we've introduced in 7.6, but what about the licensing and upgrading? So the good news is no changes to the prices of the Altaro VM Backup offering, even with these new features that we've introduced. And everyone who has a valid SMA is entitled to a free upgrade to 7.6. So if you are currently running on 7.5, I would recommend updating to 7.6, because besides that, obviously one of the main things that will affect you from the get-go is the concurrent operations that currently is again limited in 7.5. So just a quick rundown again of the availability and the new features. CDP available from the Unlimited Plus edition and subscription. GFS, so grandfather, father, son archiving, is available in the Unlimited Plus. Sorry, Unlimited Plus and subscription, and the CDP version 2 is also available in all editions. Just a quick note on the concurrency, that's available from any 7.6 onwards. So how do you go ahead and upgrade? All settings and the backup data will indeed be kept. There is no need also for a reboot. You can go ahead and update right now, in fact, and you can continue backing up on your previous dataset without the need to start anything from fresh. You can go to the link up on the screen as well to go ahead and download the latest version. And what will be required in this case is just an uninstall of the current version. Then you can install the new 7.6. Obviously, the CMC users can go ahead and deploy the upgrade as usual. And if you need to wait for the 7.6 to be introduced up on the CMC, this will be made available within the coming weeks. So with that said, what we've introduced, I'd like to take you a little bit through what's next. What are we working on? Just a sneak peek of the upcoming features. So we have quite a bit of a roadmap ahead of us, and the entire team obviously is working quite hard on delivering on these specific features that most of you customers actually requested. So, for example, offsite locations on CMC. This is something that will actually be introduced next month, whereby you'll be able to go ahead and add your Altaro offsite servers up on the cloud management console. Then we'll be introducing also replication, which is currently scheduled for mid-November 2018. So again, this is something that has been requested quite a bit, and we've decided to go ahead and sort of work towards this goal of achieving the backup and replication side of it as well. With that said, with that groundwork done, then we'll move on to disaster recovery as a service. So this is something that will mainly affect the MSPs, whereby they'll be able to offer disaster recovery to their clients as a service, and thereby, if a client site had to go down, they'll be able to switch directly to the MSP's data center without even noticing that there was a change. And this is something that we're working really hard on, again, to maintain one of our main core values, to keep the ease of use. It's not easy to obviously develop something like this and keeping ease of use, but we are on the right track, I believe. And that is scheduled for the first half of 2019. Apart from that, we'll also be introducing Office 365 email backup that is going to be direct to cloud. That's scheduled for early November 2018. Then endpoint file backup, again direct to cloud, first half of 2019. Physical server backup, which I am aware that a lot of you have indeed requested, which again will go direct to cloud, and you'll have the ability to restore directly to a virtual machine. So that's going to be quite nice. First half of 2019 as well, and backup for Azure virtual machines. Again, that's scheduled for the first half of 2019. So as you can see, it's quite a roadmap which we have ahead of us. But again, from feedback from MSPs and from end users, we have set up this roadmap to bring these features at the end of this year and early next year. So that's all from my end. Obviously, it's the live Q&A section of the webinar, and you can go ahead and type your questions within the question section of the GoToWebinar application. So it seems like everything was clear to everyone today. If you do have any questions later on, obviously you can email support or sales on the emails up on the screen. Live chat obviously is always available, so is the phone line. If you have anything that you'd like me to clarify, obviously you can contact us with anything that you'd wish. Thank you and have a nice day.